When Milk opened her eyes, she was met with quite possibly the best scene she could have ever witnessed. A woman in uniform, standing at the foot of her bed. And not any woman, but a massive 7-foot-tall woman with legs like tree trunks, skinned like the finest wine in Tuscany. Shofanti! Milk shot up before a firm hand pressed her against her chest and forced her back onto the bed. No, a voice said. You are not fit to sit up yet. Milk looked over and saw an aging man in a white coat. The coat had the telltale stains and splotches that indicated a hard day's work in a medical tent, and the red cross on his shoulder confirmed her theories, but the purple symbol over his heart threw her for a loop. He noticed her looking at the mark and smiled. When Médecins Sans Frontières and the International Red Cross sent our traditional "We're medics, don't shoot" message to the Empire, the Shofanti instructed us to sew the symbol onto our coats and paint it on our trucks. It's their Red Cross equivalent. It is the chosen symbol of some goddess of health and mercy back on their homeworld. Milk nodded before relaxing, looking back to the massive, sexy woman standing at the foot of her bed. So, she asked in a cracked voice, you're here to interrogate me? Milk coughs a bit before the doctor placed a straw into her lips. Electrolytes. No, the woman replied in a deep, husky voice. What accent came through in her voice was harsh but not unpleasant. I have come to apologize. I was the officer in charge of this camp before the Interior took over. I should have kept a better eye on what the Novas were doing. She scowls. Lieutenant, your own Geneva Conventions and the Shofanti Code of Campaign Ethics agree on most points regarding the treatment of prisoners of conquest, of war. She takes a breath. What that noble did and ordered her soldiers to do broke almost every one of those ethical codes. I intend to fix the issue. As I have told everyone, I am speaking with Colonel Milikov at the moment to organize proper reimbursement and reparations along with this camp's code. You have been put on a shortlist for replacement limbs, along with other Shofanti medical care. Milk looked down at her pinky. There was an odd ring where the flesh had been bitten off, faintly glowing. I will give you further instruction and announcements when everyone is awake and able to move. She then stood up, gave a Shofanti salute, and marched over to another medic who was trying to get her attention. Milk looked over to the doctor who nodded. 2 days bed rest, 3 days light duty, then you're clear of your injuries, he said, with the simple knowledge that he would be obeyed. And so Milk lay back in bed, looked at the ceiling, and drifted off to sleep. The camp gathered once more at the parade field. Chairs, blankets, and other comfortable-looking furniture had been set up while everyone was recovering from the riots. None of the interior guards remained, and the Shofanti that were present all had the strange purple symbol etched into their armour over their heart, and a makeshift Red Cross armband strapped over their upper arm. On the stage that's normally adorned in Shofanti propaganda and armed guards stood 2 people. Well, 1. Colonel Milikov sat in a wheelchair, his right knee shattered and left leg missing, but he looked proud as the familiar and comforting stars and stripes rested behind him. At his left stood the Shofanti officer. She wore no armour, instead a tight cloth and glistening scale mail that hung in a fetching way over her breasts. An ornate and gold-embroidered red cloak hung over her shoulder, and no flag stood behind her. As of now, every single person in this camp is a citizen of the Shofanti Empire, the officer began. That means you have certain rights. Rights the interior cunts were not respecting. It was almost soothing to see how angry this officer was. It's rare you hear someone in a position of command swear. My name is Salfai Kaltani, Mistress of Arms and Senior Marine of the 487th Empress's Marine Expeditionary Force. The guards at the side shouted something in Shil, a call and response. My relative rank translated to your rank structures would be a low-level general. If you have noticed, some of my Marines have begun to take down the walls around the camp. This is because, since your nation has signed both a peace treaty and a surrender, you are now under our protection instead of our control. None of you are fit to leave. Your medics have made that quite clear to me. If you wish to disagree with your medics, you may pick up your Empire passport, bank account information as a soldier who has been discharged from duty, and board the shuttle, parked near the admin building. It will take you wherever you want. Otherwise, please remain here. We will get you briefed on what has happened since you were captured, get you started on courses on Shil, and ensure you are given the best medical treatment we can provide. I have done wrong by you by not ensuring a Marine advisor to observe this camp. I will pay my debt in full." She then nodded to the Colonel. "I've been in contact with her CO, the Red Cross, and the, as of now, President of the US. She isn't lying," he began. "We're the last US service members not officially stood down by our government, which has done interesting things regarding loopholes and bureaucratic mess." He waves his hand. "Needless to say, this liberation makes things much smoother for all of us. Good news, we are no longer POWs. Bad news, we've been colonized by an advanced spacefaring power we can't even hope to match in our current state." He stands up from his chair, shaking on a nearly shattered leg, and using the wheelchair as a crutch to replace his second. "As the last active duty commander in the United States military, who has not officially surrendered to the Shulvanti military, I have to say it has been an honor to serve alongside the men and women I see in front of me. Every one of you has fought to the greatest of your ability and fervor, drawing blood on the enemy even when you had no chance of success. This flag behind me is the last American flag flying freely, and when the clock strikes noon, I will strike my colors to honor my duty. We have lost this war, and so my duty becomes keeping you folks alive." Instantly, the crowd of humans rose to their feet. Those who could, at least. They snapped to attention, ever mindful of the clock tower behind them. 11:53. Someone saluted as the first minute ticked over, quickly followed by everyone else. The Colonel saluted back. "Color guard!" someone called out. "Retire the colors!" A trio of POWs marched forward. A Marine, a soldier, and a sailor marched up to the flagpole and stood ready. The Colonel picked up what was going on and began to sing. "Oh, say, can you see?" Milk felt tears well in her eyes as she added her voice to the mix. "By the dawn's early light." Cookie joined in, his trained baritone mixing beautifully with a handful of voices raised in song, one last time. "What so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming." Around the group, the Shulvanti Marines looked confused at what was going on before one snapped to, slamming her rifle against her shoulder and a fist over her heart. She called out 2 words in their harsh language, and instantly every alien soldier stood at attention. "Whose broad stripes and bright lights through the perilous fight." The soldiers in Camp 773 sang what was soon to be called the Last Colours ceremony in later media. Beaten, broken, wounded and lame, witnessed by an alien 1-star general and a colonel as the highest ranking officers, the soldiers nevertheless felt important in that moment as the clock tower rang out its 12 chimes and the group stood silent. Everyone waited. A sailor produced the trumpet they had smuggled in a long time ago and began to play taps as the Stars and Stripes were lowered for the last time by soldiers of a free United States. Milk and Cookie looked at each other as they walked out of the camp together. The months of getting IDs, passports, creating stipend accounts and learning basic shill blurred compared to the months of hard imprisonment. The familiar leather of their flight jackets and aviators set against the sun. They boarded the soundless shuttle, feeling it barely shift as it quickly moved up and towards the sky, bringing them to the apartment Milk had rented for them both. "So," Cookie began, "what now?" Milk leaned back. "Now we recover, and wait, and get really drunk, and we find a way to fly." Cookie smiled a rueful grin, 'cause what's an aviator without their wings? "Nothing at all," Milk replied, throwing a wink at the pilot, who looked back to see who was talking. The pilot blushed. "Still got it."